So your boy Meet Kevin tried to buy a $20 million jet last year, and it didn't go very well for him. He lost the deposit, he didn't get the jet, and he's making significantly less money this year than he was last year when he was pumping all those stocks. If you don't know, he was doing pump and ups. Check out my other video on that. But yeah, Meet Kevin has made a lot less money, and I thought it was really interesting just how much money he was making and just the insanity that he thought he should buy a $20 million jet. So if you don't know, Meet Kevin was recently on a podcast. It's called The Journal. I will have a link to it on Spotify. You can watch the whole thing. It's really interesting. It's only about 16 minutes long, but I actually broke it down into a few short clips that we're going to actually break down in this video. Just to let you know, this is an audio-only podcast, so you'll just have to look at my face while we actually listen to it, but it's very short. I just broke it down to a couple short clips. We'll go over exactly what Kevin talks about in this podcast and how he lost a ton of money and he wasn't able to buy the jet that he wanted, the $20 million jet that he wanted to buy. So let's go ahead and get into this.
Kevin is one of the biggest financial influencers out there. He's got almost 2 million followers on YouTube alone. And he says that being an influencer made him a lot of money last year when the stock market was shooting up.
We made about 22.
Wow.
22 million.
Yeah. Last year was crazy.
So way more than you expected.
Uh-huh.
$22 million from influencer activity alone.
Yep.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, so listen, he made $22 million. Keep that in mind. We'll reference that later. He made $22 million, and that has nothing to do with his real estate. That was everything purely related to his YouTube content and everything around it. Okay, so now part two.
And as his audience grew, so did the amount of money Kevin was making. Suddenly, he was raking in millions and millions of dollars.
And to be clear, that millions of dollars comes from ad revenue on YouTube, it comes from sponsorship fees, and it comes from courses that he's selling, like subscription fees to courses that he's doing on.
Okay, so to keep that in mind, I think the majority of money, I've been on YouTube for a long time. Obviously, he made millions of dollars just from AdSense, the ads you see on YouTube. But primarily, the majority of the money he made, as I've done research on a lot of these fake gurus, is the majority of it comes from the course sales. So currently, most of his courses are about $1,000. Sometimes he runs a coupon and they're like $500, but it's still a ton of money. You make way more money from course sales than you do from ads on YouTube. Now, what's really interesting to me is a lot of people have left comments on my past Meet Kevin videos saying that they're in his course and his course provides a lot of value and whatnot. Good for them. What many people don't realize is all of the content in Kevin's course. I've seen his course. I didn't buy it, but I have seen his course. All of the information in his course is just ripped from other content that he has found on YouTube. It's all free. You can find all of the content that is in his course for free on other people's channels if you actually do the research to look for this. All he did was repackage it and sell it to his followers who worship him like a god and give him $1,000 for this stupid course when all the information is free. So, it's great that you found value in his course, but you could have gotten it completely for free. So I don't know why people defend Kevin charging $1,000 for free information. It's really quite ridiculous.
Investing courses.
At one point last year, Kevin says he made so much money that he put down a $300,000 deposit on a private jet.
Oh, gosh, yeah. I almost bought a plane myself. It's crazy.
Kind of a plane.
A jet, a Phenom, an Embraer 600. It was like $23 million.
Okay, so I did my research, and this is the plane that he is talking about, the Embraer 600 right here. What's absolutely amazing to me is that Meet Kevin thought this is something he can afford and something he could buy. Now, I realize Meet Kevin, he said in the clip he made $22 million, but still, that's not really enough to be buying this plane, considering how expensive it is to own a private jet. If you don't know, boats and jets, they're very expensive, not just to buy, but to maintain as well. You have to keep this jet airworthy, and that's going to cost you millions of dollars a year, and you also have to put jet fuel in it. This isn't like car fuel. You can't just go down to Arco and get a couple $100 for your jet. You have to buy very, very expensive jet fuel to fly this. You have to also have the pilots, which are highly experienced to fly this as well. This is not something that a single person should own unless they're like Elon Musk. Obviously, there are like companies like Target. I'm sure Amazon has plenty of these private jets. But an individual person, even though he was making $20 million, is way too much money for Meet Kevin to own. And what's really interesting is that Meet Kevin didn't really seem to realize that his income wasn't going to maintain at the $22 million a year that he made. We'll go into that in a little further, but this is just not something that he could actually conceivably buy. It's just amazing that he thought he could buy this. But let's take a look at the inside. You can see, really luxurious inside cabin, really nice. And this is the type of jet that he wanted to buy. It was like, $20 million. All right, so let's go ahead to part 3 and see the start of the downfall of the Meet Kevin private jet empire.
He started to notice that every time he talked about pulling his money out of the market or advising people to sell or making videos that were not about what to buy and how great some company was going to be, he noticed that he started losing followers. And, that's important to him because that's his real business, right? He can win or lose money on any given day in the stock market, but if he loses subscribers, and that means he's losing advertising revenue, and that means his brand is weakening over the long term.
Okay, so the guy said something really interesting, which is absolutely true. His real main revenue stream right now is you, the viewers, right? The people who watch his videos so he gets AdSense from it, and the people who buy his, incredibly overpriced $1,000 course, right? He made millions initially from real estate, but he doesn't primarily do that anymore, and he's not making a ton of money from the stock market, which is what a lot of people who have watched his channel and became subscribers in 2021, they thought, he's this big stock guy, he makes all these videos, I'm sure that's where he's making a ton of money, but all the money he was making like $2-3 million a month. All of that came from you guys watching his videos. He wasn't a stock expert. He didn't make, hundreds of millions of dollars in the stock market. It was just from people who watched his videos, and he had to continually pump out the same type of content so people would continue to give him more money and buy his overpriced courses. Okay, so this is the final clip. Let's take a look at this.
Being a successful influencer depends on staying popular. And this year, Kevin's subscriber growth has slowed dramatically. He says he's on pace to make a lot less money. And that private jet he wanted, not happening. He lost the deposit on it.
Okay, so what's really interesting about this, Meet Kevin, highly successful in real estate, very good at making YouTube videos that people want to click on, obviously, and he was making a ton of money, $22 million last year. And what was amazing to me is that Meet Kevin didn't seem to realize that this was all going to, at least somewhat fall apart. Obviously, he still has millions of subscribers, but he was never going to make the $22 million that he made last year again and again and again. And Meet Kevin thought he was, which is why he initially put a deposit down for the jet. And now he lost that deposit because he knows he can't afford it at this point. He's not making $22 million, they just said in the clip. And the reason for that is Meet Kevin basically he didn't create his channel, but he sculpted his channel all around in 2021, all around how the stock market is only going to go up, diamond hands. If it goes down, you buy the dip, guys. I'm with you to the end. I'm never going to sell. And of course, we all know how that ended. He sold all of his stocks. People got incredibly pissed off at him that he sold everything when it seemed like Kevin was a perma-bull, that he was always going to believe in the market. Now, what's amazing to me is that Kevin didn't realize, this was all going to come down on his head. If you make a channel or if you construct your channel primarily around, bull market, I'm always going to buy the dip, right? Obviously, if you do a 180 and reverse the type of content you're making and say, guys, it's a bear market now, you should take your money out. Obviously, there's going to be a large percentage of your audience that doesn't want to see that type of content. It doesn't matter if it's stock market, it could be any type of content. If you do a 180 reverse and then you take content bashing the former content that you made, guys get out, don't be diamond hands, sell everything. Obviously, you're going to lose subscribers. You're not going to get as many views. And another thing that Kevin didn't seem to realize, even though he claims to be a stock market expert, is obviously, in 2020, 2021, we were in this massive bull market, this bubble that was created by the Federal Reserve pumping in a bunch of funny money into the economy. They were doing everything they could just to pump trillions of dollars in the economy to keep it afloat. And now we're starting to see years later, a year and a half later, we're starting to see massive inflation, some of the worst inflation we've seen since the 1980s. The stock market is crashing, everything is down big, crypto, literally everything is down, gas is up, food prices are up. Obviously, it was not going to continue for 10 years straight of a complete bull market. So it's just amazing to me that Kevin didn't seem to realize that this kind of, this permanent $20 million that he was making a year pumping out this terrible content, trying to get people primarily to buy his stock market course. Because if you've watched any of his videos, he talks about his course in every single video. Buy my course, guys. Even though the guy doesn't really know what he's talking about. And this starts to show he's kind of on the downside now. He wanted to buy a jet. He didn't realize that's not something he was actually going to be able to afford, lost the big deposit that he put down on it, and he's starting to make vastly different content, and people are starting to turn on him for it. So there you go. There's my video on Meet Kevin losing out on his potentially $20 million private jet that he wanted to buy, that he never should have. He can't afford it even if he was making a ton of money. I broke it down why he can't afford it. But if you want to check out the full podcast, The Journal, it is on Spotify. I will have a link in the description of this video. But yeah, I think this was inevitable. If you create your channel trying to tell everyone, buy everything, I'm going to talk about 100 stocks in every single video, and then a bear market happens, you're going to lose tons of audience because of that. It's not just Meet Kevin. There are plenty of other big stock market channels. We're all about pumping the market. Financial Education, I talked about him. All these guys, they're not getting anywhere near the amount of views they were before, because they just, they had terrible content that was just about pumping the market, and they can't do that during a bear market. But go ahead and leave your comments below. Let me know what you think about this actual story. Thanks, everyone.